Chapter 8 Magic. Adeline and Draxon were trained well by their father. In conventional combat, they were well versed. Swords, shields, bows, arrows, daggers, they understood them all, and could use them all well. Magic, however, they knew nothing about. Their father had known nothing about it, and everything they had learned about battle, they had learned from him. Now they faced a mage from the east. The wizard shot fire from his staff at the closest target to him, Draxon. Raising his sword to defend himself in a last-ditch effort, he doubted it would prevent him from getting burned. Luckily for him, Draxon had a little frost breath left in him. With ease, he extinguished the fire, saving his friend. "Draxon!" Adeline cried out in fear. "Get back!" Draxon heeded her words. Hastily, he sprinted back behind the dragon next to his sister. Catching his breath, he looked to Adeline. In confusion, he asked, What do we do?" "I have no idea," Adeline shrugged. The wizard was too powerful, and even Draxon would not be able to extinguish his firebolts forever. Without his frost breath, the trio had no defense. Their situation was quite dire, to say the least. As the wizard readied another blast of fire, an unexpected guest arrived. The figure wore a cloak which covered his face. He floated above the trio, and in his hands floated orbs of frost and light. The wizard from the east became quite visibly afraid. From the orbs, bolts of frost and light shot forth onto the opposing wizard. For a split second, the wizard was able to defend against his new foe's attack. Quickly, however, he was overwhelmed. The frost extinguished his flames, and the light shot forth from his staff, shot the staff from the wizard's hands. Outmatched and harboring great fear, the wizard from the east fled as fast as he could to escape the Shadowlands. Adeline doubted he would, given the dangers the Shadowlands held within them. The figure that floated above landed on the ground and turned to address the trio. His hood remained on, as its shadow veiled his face. His voice was smooth as silk, yet deep as the great lake. "Why are you here, children?" "We," Draxon gulped, "have come looking for a wizard." "There are much safer places to look for one," the cloaked figure chuckled. "This one is powerful, the most powerful in all the land," Adeline countered. The wizard turned away. "You must go back to where you came from, young ones. Your search is in vain." Adeline pulled the medallion her father had given her from her tunic. Holding it out for the wizard to see, she responded. It glistened in the moonlight. "Is it?" Surprising her, the medallion flew from his hand and into the wizard's. He examined it, then gave a small smile. He turned to face them once more. "Your Boitas, children, yes?" Addressing the twins. "Yes," Adeline replied. "How did you know?" "I've heard of your father's exploits to help my people. It's a shame he could not bring this to me himself." Removing his cloak, a blue elf with attractive features stood before them. He donned a reassuring smile and clasped his hands together comfortably. He addressed them once more. "I'm the wizard you've been seeking." "You don't look old," Draxon remarked, remembering his father's description of the man. "I'm not, for a blue elf anyway. The man you speak of was most likely my teacher and master. I was his apprentice until he passed," the blue elf said with a melancholy tone. "I'm sorry to hear of his loss," Adeline remarked sympathetically. "Such is the way of all those who roam the earth. My name is Damriel, and in honor of the vow my master made to your father, I shall aid you on your quest." "We're on a mission to restore Prince Azetar to his rightful throne," Adeline informed him. "This will mean fighting Lord Hargoth and his underdwellers." "And you think this is just, knowing Azetar's family history regarding my people?" Damriel inquired, his question acting more as a probing inquiry than one seeking general knowledge. "Azetar is not his father. He harbors no ill will towards non-human kind," Draxon replied honestly. Damriel changed the subject slightly. "Hargoth is a murderer and a radical. I do not care for him. However, I will not, in good conscience, aid a bigot in his bigotry." "Please, believe us," Adeline implored. "The prince, although far from perfect, will make right his father's wrongs." "I too think he will, for what it's worth," Draxon chimed in. Draxon smiled. "Then by your word, I shall aid you in returning the prince to his throne." A deal's a deal, Daedra conceded. Here is your prince, alive and well, as you can see. Azatar began walking towards the twins, the dragon, and the stranger with them. Then he turned back to Daedra. To her surprise, he smiled at her. Thank you for everything. I've never been thanked by someone I've kidnapped before, Daedra chuckled. You mean this isn't the first time? Adeline inquired, slightly angered. Draxon put his hand on her shoulder to calm her down. We'll be going now, Draxon interrupted, beginning to turn around. Daedra gave a small smile to them all and a quick bow. She seemed to recognize the wizard. Before they departed, she addressed him. Damriel, she said, greeting him in a friendly, familiar manner. Daedra, he replied in kind. May I come back someday for more of your teachings? Azatar asked before leaving. I expected you to, young prince, Daedra replied. That is, if you survive your encounter with Lord Hargoth. As they departed, Adeline inquired of the prince in a hushed tone as to what he had learned. She worried that Daedra had somehow corrupted him. The prince, sensing her anxiety concerning the matter, calmly reassured her. No need to worry. Maybe someday I can show you what I learned. Meanwhile, Draxon began questioning Damriel as to how he knew Daedra. He sensed they had a deeper knowledge of one another than just being casual acquaintances. Damriel's answer, however, was completely unexpected. We saw each other at one point, Damriel spoke, maintaining his composure after the rather intrusive question. Like you were boyfriend and girlfriend? Draxon asked, rephrasing the question. I suppose that's one way of putting it, Damriel chuckled. Yuck, Adeline remarked, making her disdain for Daedra apparent. Craxon, amused by the line of conversation, chuckled at different junctures of the discourse. Together they walked through the forest until night came. Then Craxon took them into the skies on his back. We should be getting out to the Shadowlands by dawn, Craxon informed the group. You all should sleep while you can. You need to sleep too, Craxon, Adeline remarked. Oh no, I'm all right. Dragons rarely sleep on the regular. We prefer to hibernate. Really? Adeline asked, amazed. I sometimes wish humans were like that. We could get so much more done. I don't, Draxon noted, getting into a more comfortable position. Sleep is great. You're just lazy, Adeline teased, hitting him on the shoulder. And you're just a busybody who can't enjoy the moment, he teased back. The group chuckled, finding their continued bickering to be amusing. Damriel and Craxon took it in stride. Azatar, however, found their camaraderie to be a saddening reminder of his lack of family. Noticing his sadness, Adeline inquired as to whether he was all right. The group's attention turned to him. He hesitated, not thinking his sadness was noticeable. It's nothing. I sometimes wish I had a brother or sister of my own, I suppose. Here, you can take mine, Draxon joked, pushing Adeline towards him. Azatar blushed at her touch, while Adeline shoved her brother back. Perhaps fate has provided you with the family you've always desired, Damriel cryptically replied. What do you mean? Azatar asked. Sometimes the strongest families are not tethered together by blood, but by experiences and trials they've shared together, he explained. Perhaps the family you are meant to be a part of is right in front of you. I never thought about it that way before, the prince admitted, gaining a grander understanding from the wizard's words. Family doesn't have to be bound by blood, but by purpose. They're the ones who have your back. I've got your back, Azatar. I've got your back, Azatar, Craxon piped up. As do I, Adeline smiled. As do I, Draxon roared, punching the prince in the chest, nearly knocking him off the dragon's back. Even if you are a spoiled little prince, he added, teasing him. As do I, Damriel affirmed. Azatar smiled at the jab sent his way by Draxon, further demonstrating he had grown and increased in maturity. In a surprising gesture, the prince bowed to them all. In humility, he raised his head to speak. I cannot thank you all enough for being my protectors, guides, and friends. I do not deserve your loyalty, but I will do my best to be worthy of it. Under the pale moonlight, the group bonded and gained a new sense of loyalty to the young prince. In just a short amount of time, He had shown himself to be a leader worthy of following, a noble who not only lived up to the title, but the very meaning of the word itself. "We should get some rest. We have a long day ahead of us," Damrio remarked. "If I know anything of Hargoth, it's that he will not give up the capital without a fight." Chapter 9. Salvation. Humans and non-humans alike, who had rallied behind Boitar's charismatic leadership, fended off Hargoth's forces. Sadly, their efforts had proven to be in vain. As each hour passed, Boitar's troops were slowly being defeated by superior forces. Boitar, who had been key in rallying everyone in their cause against Hargoth, was asked by the generals to lead the troops on the front lines. Either implicit trust in leading the men, or hopes that Boitar would fall in the conflict, led them to make their choice. To Boitar, it did not matter. As long as Hargoth was stopped, the politics behind the general's decisions were inconsequential. Hargoth's forces were unrelenting and ruthless. It was as though Hargoth had driven them to madness somehow. Before the main conflict, Boitar had hoped to convince the underdwellers to join his cause. He felt he was on the verge of doing so at one point, but something had changed. Many of Boitar's warriors had noticed a crazed look in the eyes of their foes. The how or why was not important in the heat of battle. The only question now was, could they be stopped? As Boitar helped maintain a wall of shields, one of his lieutenants assigned under him rushed to him bringing news. Pushing away a charging ogre, Boitar stepped forward behind the shield wall, and another took his place. Turning to return the lieutenant's crisp salute, Boitar motioned for him to deliver the message. "Sir, Hargoth's forces have broken through our left flank. They're going to flank us in a matter of minutes." Boitar sighed, knowing this meant, more than likely, that the battle was lost. Quickly, he grabbed the young man's shoulders and lowered his voice. In a hushed tone, he responded, "Have you told this to anyone else?" "No, sir," he replied, anxious and frightened. "Don't," Boitar ordered. "Mount your steed and head to the refugee camp. Inform the generals and tell them I recommend retreat." "But, sir, our force is here." "That will," he retorted, not able to hold his tongue from thinking aloud. "Go, Lieutenant. These men are fighting to give those people a chance," Boitar whispered harshly, his tone emphasizing the urgency of his command. "Be sure that they make retreat." Quickly, and without reservation, he ran quickly to fetch a fresh horse. Boitar then returned to the fight, seeing the enemy was mounting another large offensive. In what might be his final moments, Boitar thought on his wife and children. Hargoth watched the battle from afar as the capital burned. He smiled in amusement, knowing victory would be his before long. Moshia, a female orc turned vampire, stood next to him. "Will your spell over my millions hold?" Hargoth asked, not averting his eyes from the conflict. Moshia, a smart, beautiful, yet bloodthirsty woman, was considered to be one of the most powerful witches to have ever lived. Her knowledge of the dark arts was quite extensive, and her speciality was the manipulation of others. For this reason, Hargoth kept a close eye on her. Despite being allied with her, he knew she could not be trusted. Like the troops who had betrayed him at Boitar's beckoning, she too might need to be manipulated to better suit his purposes. "Yes," she replied coldly. "As long as my spell holds, the underdwellers will be under your control." Hargoth still could not understand why so many of them had chosen to side with the humans in the end. Did they not know just how evil and manipulative they were? Their kind-heartedness and guilt had gotten the better of them. Such weakness and failure to stay focused was something Hargoth could not abide. "Can you push them? I wish to end this," Hargoth wondered. "Pushing them any farther might kill them," Moshia responded. Hargoth turned to face her. "Do I look like I care? Traitors deserve such a fate. Do it," he ordered harshly. Moshia did not like being ordered about. Nonetheless, she did as she had been bidden. Reaching out her hand, she spat out another incantation and increased the power of her spell. Hargoth looked on in delight as the humans came closer to their ultimate demise. He closed his eyes and reveled in their sorrow. He could almost sense their desperation. It was like a palpable force, one you could almost taste. Then a voice woke him from his trance-like state. My lord, there's a dragon on the horizon. As the twins and their fellow adventurers flew over the battlefield, it was clear that the forces of darkness were winning. What was not clear, however, was what Dambriel alone could sense. Everything was not as it seemed to be. The enemy is under a spell. No doubt, Mashiach's work, Dambriel noticed. You mean they're being controlled to fight? Azatar asked. Precisely, Dambriel confirmed. If we could break the spell, the fighting would be stopped, Adeline reasoned. Why control them unless they wouldn't fight willingly? Draxon concluded. I could put a wall of ice around the king's forces, Craxon suggested. That would protect both sides until we could break the spell. That could work, Azatar replied. Damriel, could you find the person casting the spell? I sense her already, Damriel remarked. Her aura is like an evil, foul stench. When I find her, I must devote all my attention to defeating her. She will not be easy to take down. You all will have to ensure Hargoth does not escape. We'll take care of him, Adeline replied confidently. We won't let him get away. We have a kingdom to save, Azatar bellowed. Let's do this.